Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Origins, and in today's video I'm going to be talking you through the raid. The raid has just been added to Modern Warfare 2, and it is one of the most stressful situations you'll find yourself, but also one of the most rewarding things to play at the moment. It's a good test for strength and character, and you need your team to do this. So you need to unlock a raid assignment, which can be done either by placing top 20 in Warzone, by completing online assignments in the multiplayer, or by extracting with 30k money in the DMZ mode. Once you've gotten your raid assignment, you'll be able to unlock the raid, but you'll need 2 other players and a party of 3 to be able to do it. Once you spawn in, the first challenge after wiping out the wave of AI will be this puzzle room. So in this puzzle room, there's 2 security rooms, and each security room has a monitor. So that's one monitor there with those 4 screens, and in the next room, a same setup. So basically, on the left is a little machine with a red screen that shows Russian letters of the alphabet. Then what you have to do is use those monitor screens to find secret rooms on the cams, kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's style. You go through the cams and you'll find a room where there's certain Russian letters and corresponding numbers to those letters, and you'll start to see a cipher beginning to form. Now, first off, if you've ever done an escape room, you'll probably be more equipped for this than the average player. If you've never done anything like a cipher or a riddle or a puzzle before, you're going to have to take your time. But luckily, there's no time constraint in this room. It's very easy to just take your time and not get stressed. There's no time for the raid. You have no time limit whatsoever. Take as long as you need. So this is a really important thing because this puzzle repeats itself later in the raid under a lot more stressful situations. So take as long as you need for you and your team to understand how this works. So I was reading out the Russian letters on that red screen. My 2 friends were then going on the cams trying to find the secret rooms that had the building with the sort of, each room had like a wall, and it had like almost like a projection of Russian letters and numbers corresponding to them. Some of those letters matched the ones on this red screen and some didn't. So some do try and throw you off. So if your friends are shouting out like Z and that's not on that red screen, ignore it. You don't need it. A pen and paper does help in this room. I did that, and I think it did come in handy a lot because my friends could go in between the rooms looking at the cams, telling me if they saw R or B or Y or C, and then what numbers corresponded to those. But you only need to find a 3-digit code per room. And the most annoying thing is that once you've inputted one series of 3 numbers and you get it right, the whole puzzle resets. So you have to solve it 3 times uniquely. Keep looking at the cams because those letters and numbers will be changing, and that red screen will be changing. Every time you get it right, it'll change. It'll randomly generate things. So there you go. In that room, there was W, B, and C, and they had numbers underneath. So we had to see if W, B, and C were on that red screen. B and C were in that instance, so we had 2 of the 3 numbers. Then we had to look in that room to see if there was anything else in there, and we did. And basically, it just works like that. 2 people on cams, 1 person reading out the Russian cipher. And then you'll work together to input the right sequence of numbers into the machine. The thing that also is annoying is that only 1 player per group can input at any one given time. So you can't have 1 person on the input machine, 1 person on the cams, 1 person on the red. That would be too nice for them to let you do that. You have to take turns punching in the 3-digit numbers. So if you go first, then your friend has to go, and then your third friend has to go. You can't just have 1 person spamming the input machine. It's really frustrating that that's the case, because later in the raid, when you're under more stressful situations, it does bite you in the ass. But just bear that in mind whilst doing this, because if you get this bit sorted out pretty quickly and you get the gist of the cipher and how it works, you will then later in the raid be under a bit of a time restraint, but I'll explain more about that when we get to that bit. But this raid is stressful, it is complicated, and it is different for the average COD player to just drop into something like this and have to take it on. Luckily, 2 of the guys that I'm playing with here play Destiny, and that's got loads of really complicated and high value raids, so they're kind of used to a sort of raid system and solving a little bit of puzzles and stuff. But honestly, it is just about good comms, teamwork, rinse and repeat, because there's nothing more stressful than a team where you're all shouting at each other and screaming at each other. There's nothing more stressful and irate than that. You have to have people on your wavelength, and I trust these 2, and they came in clutch with me, and they were so good as partners. They were so good. A British man, a Canadian man, and an American solving the raid, which is just one of the best things. It's been one of my highlights of gaming this year, was to do this raid and pull it off first time. So we're just spending our time in these rooms, learning the ciphers, learning the cams, learning each other's roles, realizing we all can't input the same thing on the same machine. We all have to take turns doing different jobs. So eventually we do get out of this room, we get the cipher right, and it'll tell you whether you got the cipher right or wrong by saying code accepted or code invalid. And basically, once you've gotten all three of the inputs correct, it'll appear on the screen. So like our first code was 051, and then there'll be another series of numbers, and then it'll be another series of numbers, and then you'll have gotten out. So 051, 20, and then they're reading me the ciphers. 205, that was good. And then now we have to get another series of three numbers by looking at them cams, looking at that red screen, and just rinsing and repeating. And then the silo doors open, and you move on to the next step of the raid. But yeah, like I say, comms are everything, teamwork is everything, and honestly, these guys were a dream to work with because it actually worked out really well. And once you get out of that room, you'll be prompted to grab this gas bottle. Now, this is the next stressful part of the raid. Everyone doesn't get a gas bottle each. One person holds the gas bottle at a time, and you have to pass it between players. So we just practiced passing it back and forth on land, got the gist of how it worked. Basically, we're going to now embark on an underwater puzzle. So once we get under this water, we have to kind of follow our path as a group, stick together, swim together in like a pod, really, going through these tunnels, following the signs, trying to get through this maze. And slowly and steadily, we'll begin to struggle to breathe, and we'll have to take turns of peace, sharing that oxygen can around. So like I was saying, you'll start and doing this underwater puzzle, and you'll realise when your red bars on your screen start to flash that your character's losing oxygen, and that is when you need to share your gas bottle with each other. So you got to stick together, don't go too far away, because sometimes you have to like stretch to reach each other with the gas bottle. So make sure you have got each other close by, because if someone's screen starts flashing, that's not good. You need that gas bottle lickety-split. And then some parts of the underwater puzzle is difficult because you'll have to have one person go alone while one person holds a button, and they'll swim through like gates and fences and stuff, so there's a lot of teamwork involved again. But again, when you hear the bubbles coming out of your character and you see the screen flashing, that's when you need to hand that gas bottle over and share it. It's important to keep an eye out for the water level to change as well, because in certain spaces like here, you can have little pockets of air where you get to safe spaces, which are like mini checkpoints along the water puzzle, and they'll come in handy for later on. So here we are, just using the air pockets as we can, whilst we get a layout of the room, and then we can continuously explore. There's a power bit in here which we needed to solve. So there was a wire running up to this Jenny. You pop the Jenny on, and then that button will open up into the next room. This was the final bit of the water puzzle, which was a bit complicated at first until we wrapped our head around it. He pushed the button in that room. After he activated the Jenny, the doors opened up, and then I could swim through and enter the new room. But then we realised that when he let go of the button, the door closed, so he couldn't follow me through. So I had to get up into this air pocket, get all my oxygen back, realised that there was a problem with this door not opening, found the wire that was trailing along the floor, and realised that the same generator in the other room would power the button in my room. So he had to go and reactivate that generator, and then once he gave me the all clear, I could swim down and activate this button, and in doing that, would let him swim through. So we figured that out, and we got him through, but we realised along the way, one of our teammates had actually struggled and got left behind. So he ended up getting marooned on the far side of this water puzzle without an oxygen bottle, and we thought it was going to be a bit of a bug or a glitch. But luckily, as long as you get to the next safe area, the next checkpoint, you can reload from the last checkpoint, which is your new saved one. So basically, once we got the generator working and we got my friend Sith into this room with me, we could then get Halo from across the map and spawn him in our checkpoint. So basically, it was just solving that for now. But like I say, getting the generator to work took a few tries. But then eventually we get it open and we get him in with us. And then here's Sif, me and him are now together, sharing the oxygen tank with me. And then we get up into this room and we realise Halo is stuck on the other side of the map. So we get into here, get our new safe checkpoint, kill some bad guys, and then we can spawn from the last checkpoint and bring Halo to unite with us. So if something like that does go wrong, as long as the host, or at least 2 out of the 3, makes it through, you can then reload from your last checkpoint and your friend will spawn with you, which is a good way of getting out of any of those tight situations. The next part of the puzzle is literally a firefight for your life. You'll go through tiny corridors, tunnels, underground networks, and just underneath the whole bunkers to go around fighting off waves of enemies like juggernauts, fully decked out armored AI, and normal AI. It's a good chance to load up on explosives and high firepower weapons to just maul your way through. Also, juggernauts do drop a minigun which has 100 rounds in, so that's kind of fun. I kind of pick it up and display it here, and then eventually I give it back to Sif because he knows what he's doing with it. So I give it back to him because he did earn it. They set the juggernaut on fire, so that was pretty cool. So Sif has his minigun, and now we can continue going through the raid. But yeah, this bit is the best bit for me because it's just simple Call of Duty firefights and just exploring, which is really cool. So in this office, I find this button, and then obviously because it's me and it's a big red button, I push it, and the minute I do, I unleash the holy gates of hell. So Sif is dead. Yes, there we go. That's what happens. So basically, I allowed all the AI into the room, which is what you need to do. I used my recon perk, and it's important to know that every player has a different role. So medic is quick revives, recon is like a UAV drone, and then the tank sort of assault character is like your armor plates. So it's important to remember to use your call-outs, to use your abilities as and when you need them. But basically, me and Sith are hiding in this room while Halo is cleaning up house out there. So Halo is going ballistic, roaming around, getting them kills, sorting us out, and he's cleared the path for us. There's a riot shield here. It drops infinitely for us, so see if it does that for you, and you can all have riot shields on your back, which is a great addition to a bit of added coverage. Then you'll explore again through some watery mazes and tunnels until eventually you get into this bigger room, and you'll start to recognize some of the rooms from the cams from the very first room. So in this area, we're not at it just yet, but I'll kind of try and take my time to explain it to you. There's what we call the water room, which is like a blue office filled like halfway with water, and AI spawn in there. And then there's the red room, which is like an office that's covered in red light, and AI spawn in there too. Then near a big thick bunker door, there's a computer with the same cipher as there was in the very first office. So basically, this is going to be a lot of running, gunning, solving puzzles at the same time. Multitasking has never been harder, because in this section of the raid that we're about to get into, someone has to stand by a computer whilst the other two players kill AI and shout off letters and numbers as they appear on their walls. And you'll have a certain amount of time to do that. So there's a time restraint, there's two separate rooms with two separate strands of codes, and then AI trying to shoot you. So it does get a bit stressful. This is the most stressful part of the raid, and this is the most, you need patience, communication, and sometimes we just had to burn rounds. We just had to let the ciphers disappear and wipe and go again and go again and go again. And rinsing and repeating will get you through this. Keep yourself sane, keep your comms good, and don't lose focus. Don't get yourself stressed and annoyed that you have to keep letting it loop, because the codes are endless. They'll never stop coming. Just don't waste your time getting killed or getting downed because you're rushing it or whatever. There's no time restraint, so just take your time. The code will last for a certain amount of time before the code resets, but that's okay because it can reset an infinite number of times, and it doesn't matter how many times it loops. It does not matter in the slightest. But every time it does loop, AI will spawn in this room, which we call the blue room, and in the red room, which you'll see in a minute. But when they do, just kill the AI and read off the letters and numbers as they form in this room. So in this room where Sif is guarding the door, instantly, the minute you go in there and look right, there's a wall with 3 letters, 3 numbers, and they'll rotate every single time. In this section as well, we get rushed by 3 juggernauts, which is very stressful, which does cause us to die a fair few times, which is okay, because all that means is that we have to just pick up and go from where we left off. And it is stressful. This is the red room that we're in right now. The red room is a little bit easier to defend than the what do we call it? The red and blue. The blue room is a lot harder because there's water. You're submerged. Sometimes your equipment doesn't work in there. Sometimes there's a lot more AI, and there's gas in that room as well. The red room will either drop bomb drones, armored guys, or normal guys. So it's just a firefight in the red room. In the blue room, there's the same layout: bomb drones, armored AIs, normal AIs, and gas that randomly spawns. Gas can be like survived if you go under the water, but then obviously if you go under the water for too long, you will drown. So it's about playing it 50-50. Normally what we did is we just exited the blue room while the gas was in it, let the gas dissipate and go back in. But right now what's happening is we're all in our position. So someone's by the keypad, someone's in the red room, someone's in the blue room. And as that code comes up on the wall there, I'm in a firefight, as you can see, and on my left-hand side, I'm reading off those letters and those numbers to my teammate who's at the keypad who has to input those numbers. And you have to swap round. Again, not one person can be on keypad, and the two other guys elsewhere, you have to rotate. So everyone will be in either the red room, the blue room, or the keypad at least once. And every role is stressful. Every situation is stressful. So again, take your time, use it to your advantage. And if the timer runs out, let the numbers wipe and they'll come back fresh. Like there, you just saw that happen. So now we have 252 and we have letters above those. So I'm shouting them to the keypad guy. He inputs whatever's on his screen. The blue guy in the blue room, he's shouting off his letters and numbers. Input guy inputs them, and then the code is correct. And then you rotate. So basically, take your time, use your comms, don't get stressed. It's one of the most stressful things I've ever done in a Call of Duty game, and I can see how the typical Call of Duty player would really get annoyed and vexed in this scenario. I mean, we do. We shout incendiary things to one another whilst we do this raid in the director's cut, which we will be releasing after this tutorial goes live. So do go and watch that for some giggles, because honestly, it is a hell of a lot of fun. And you will get stressed, and you will get annoyed, but that's why having the right team does make it worthwhile. So, like, there I am in the blue room, there's bomb drones flying at me, I'm trying to avoid them, I'm trying to read off my code as well as fighting off these things. But eventually, by the miracles that be, we do end up getting through this part. Look out for these boxes as well so you can get refills on your weapons, but at the worst comes to worst, drop that gun on the ground, pick up a new gun, because there's no time for reloading. You just have to get what you've got and fire. So, that is very much the levels of stress that we're at in this scenario. But eventually, once the keypad combination is inputted correctly for the third and final time, you then get a 19-minute timer where you have to defend this door. There's two possible entry points the hostiles can get you from, left or right. So I had Sith in the middle, helping me, sometimes helping Halo, other times Halo's watching his side, I'm watching my side. My side is a lot quieter at times, but then randomly can get a burst of like 8 enemies running at you. And the bomb drones are the worst. When a bomb drone comes in this situation, you got to just duck under the water, let them get distracted, then shoot up out the water and blow them out the sky. Use the bomb drones to kill the enemies on the ground, and use the bomb drones to kill them each other, because they come in like a wave or a swarm. Then also juggernauts can spawn in down here, which is horrendous. Nobody wants to be balls deep in the ocean whilst you're getting shot at, whilst the juggernaut's running, whilst there's a bomb drone in the air. And that's just a stressful situation for everybody involved. And trust me, stressful is the key word of this raid. It will happen, you will die infinitely amounts of times, and that's why I say the best group you can get together for this raid is perfect. Comms need to be sharp, your team need to work together, you can't have randoms with random microphones going crazy. I mean, we have to have communication in these things, because otherwise you will never succeed. But eventually, once we survived against these waves of enemies and held them off, we eventually get to this door, and we eventually finish the raid. And what a successful feeling it is when that raid is completed, and you're getting out of this thing for the very first time. Oh my god, it's sensational. The amount of weapons on the floor were lagging frame rates out for people. We were literally huddled against this door, getting it open. And then once that cutscene plays, there is not a more magical feeling. We were waiting the entire time, expecting a boss to come out, expecting there to be like the next room, the next level of the raid. But no, this cutscene rolls, you can put your feet up, you can take a sigh of relief. It's over. You're finished. You're done. You finally completed the raid, and you'll be able to unlock the original Gaz uniform as seen here in the cutscene. And if you purchased a Gaz operator bundle from the store, you'll get a special skin as well for completing the raid, which is a bit of a hit and miss. Some people don't like that, because if you purchase the suit in the item shop or the store, you won't be able to get Gaz's full operator outfit and his bonus skin unless you've completed the raid, which some people don't like. But I love the default look for Gaz. He's one of my favourite characters. I loved him in Modern Warfare 2019, and I love him in the campaign for this game. So to see him come back has been sick. They announced Alex in this cutscene as well, which is quite crazy to see. Obviously, he was in Modern Warfare 2019, and we see a picture of him in the intro to this raid, and they talk about him at the end here. But it's really cool because that means there's a lot of content that's going to be popping up from the old COD games coming back into this new one. So these raids are going to be like mini stories that happen once a season, I think, or maybe once every other season. I don't know how frequent they'll be, but this is pretty cool. And the next thing for us to try and do after this is Building 21, which is the DMZ variant of a raid. So that's a whole thing of its own, but hopefully you like this tutorial. Like I say, it is very complicated, but the three things are comms, calmness, and repetition. It's the only way you're going to get out. But I love how it's expanding the story. I love how it's expanding into the world of online multiplayer for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Warzone at the moment for me is a bit dry and dead, so the fact that they've got these types of raids to come in is really exciting, and I do love this type of atmosphere in a game where it's a bit of puzzles, a bit of fighting, a bit of exploration, a bit of shooting and teamwork, and it's so good. And when you see that raid screen, accomplishment, it's so worthwhile. We didn't get 3 stars, but it doesn't matter. I ended up getting a weapon blueprint, so how it'll work is everyone will get one random reward after completing the raid. I was lucky enough to get a weapon blueprint, and everyone will unlock the Gaz operator, which is pretty cool, and you can use him in multiplayer, and you can go and select him and change his finisher and stuff like that. And yeah, that's everything. So if you did enjoy, do hit subscribe, comment down below. We're on the road to 6k subscribers, so if you can help us out by subbing, that would be brilliant. I'd love that very much. So thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye for now, and peace.